Hi guys, it's Steph from Idriveaclassic. Now the weather outside, as you probably spotted, is a little bit gloomy, but guess what? I'm back today and I'm doing a video on a car that's going to take all the gloom out of the weather. We are doing another Jag. It was something that you guys asked for, and it's not just any Jag. We are back in an XJR from 1997, and even better than that, it is a supercharged Jag. Could I do any better for you guys? Probably not. So in today's video, we're going to have a look around the outside of the car. We're going to have a look inside. Don't forget to spot the black trim because that is super rare. Also this headlining that keeps knocking my hair out of place because just like most Jag headlinings, it is a bit saggy. And we're going to have a look under the bonnet so you can spot that supercharger. We're going to take her for a spin out so you can hear how she sounds. We'll have a look through the dash, and we'll also have a chat with the owner too, because a little bit like when we took the Rolls Royce out, why has a 22-year-old man bought a Jag? And it's not his first one, it's his second. So we'll have a good chat with Richard. We'll find all that out in today's video. So stay tuned because we're now going to have a look at an amazing supercharged Jag. Before we get inside this amazing supercharged Jag, let's have a little chat about it. So this is a final year straight six model, and these cars were discontinued in mid to late 1997, and this one's a February 1997 car. It's UK spec, and for those of you that like a little bit of technical detail, it's anthracite, which is black metallic paint, and a full warm charcoal black leather interior. And can you believe, and this actually feels quite special, there were only 318 of these XJRs made in 1997, so it's a little bit exciting to be taking it out, and it actually feels like quite a privilege. So to give you a bit of insight into where it sits in the Jaguar history, these XJRs were introduced as part of the new XJ series range, which replaced the outgoing XJ40 model in late 1994. So the last Jag that we took out was an XJ40, so we're kind of following through the range there a little bit. And these were very much an attempt to kind of modernise Jaguar, and they decided they needed a bit of an ace card to add to the range and show the world that they could kind of make and sell a high performance production car to counter efforts from people like the Germans with their BMW M5 and the high performance Mercedes saloons, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where they were pitching this, and the car was extremely competitive in its class for performance, being one of the, if not the actual quickest factory produced four-door that you could buy at the time. Now Jags, especially in the early 90s, were suffering from a little bit of an image problem. Things were a little bit temperamental, things were kind of going wrong with some of the aging models, and it hit that Jaguar reputation. So the XJ40, the previous model, did receive a lot of developments and improvements, which we talked about in the last video, and that was whilst it was in production, but it kind of lost a little bit of the edge by the early 90s that it had maybe had of that glamour in the earlier part of the 20th century. So the new range for 94 onwards looked forwards and kind of backwards, harking back to the previous curved XJs, the 70s, but kind of put that heavy emphasis on the improved build quality, the mechanical specifications, and the finish that we kind of talked about in the last video, and it carried through to this as well. So again, you see that gratuitous use of chrome, you see the high quality finish. They're really chasing those quality benchmarks, and I don't think by doing that and by modernising it slightly, it's lost any of the comfort and the handcrafted feel to the interior, which kind of gives Jags that special edge over some of those more vanilla, forgettable luxury executive cars. And the new cars were by and large very well received, not only by the owners but by the press as well. So let's talk about what makes these so special before we have a look inside and go for a little drive. Essentially, they mark a small but important turning point in Jaguar's attitude, placing themselves and where they place themselves in the market and the car making business. The car was lower, harsher, and a little bit meaner than some of like the floaty XJs of the past, and was marketed more for the driver themselves. So I know that we talked about in the last video, it was moving through into that it became the driver's car, not something that you were driven in. And I think that this car captures the change really with its full black trim, metallic paint, big alloys, and even though I'm not too keen on it, that dark maple wood finish as opposed to kind of the acres of walnut which you previously had on the cars. Now the last thing I'm going to tell you before we jump inside and before we have a chat with Richard actually is, most importantly, it was the first ever supercharged Jaguar production road car, and it really set a precedent for them developing supercharged models, which continues today. So by looking at this car today, we're almost seeing a glimpse into the future of Jag as it would have been known at the time. Now, before we head off inside the car and we have a look around, because honestly it's a beautiful car and it's been beautifully maintained as well, let's have a chat with the owner, Richard, which I filmed at home.
Hi, I'm Richard, I'm22, and yes, I bought the Jag. I already had an X300, I'd had a red Sovereign 95 4-litre car. It's just a cheap Jag, I just sort of got it as my first one, got it off a friend, and yeah, no, I've sort of ran that round for a bit, but it's sort of started a bit of a sort of a trend for looking at Jags and looking at what else was available, and looking particularly at that X300. I enjoyed driving it. It was a good car. It was cheap to buy. It wasn't unreasonable to get sort of bits and pieces done with it, and it was a good car. So I looked, and the person who I'd bought it off had bought a supercharged version, the XJR, to replace it. And I remember him showing me it and looking around various things and thinking, yeah, this is sort of pretty cool. So you look into more about the cars and everything, and you can find out, okay, so it's got, Eaton M90 supercharger. You find out all these sort of things about, first production supercharged Jag, all these sorts of bits and pieces, and you sort of build a picture, and eventually you're sort of like, well, actually I really want one. So I sort of began looking at them, casually, and then not so casually, and sort of went through quite a few, and none of them really ticked all my boxes. They either had moon mileage, or they were rotten, or they were weird colours, all these sorts of things. So but that car came up just under a year ago, and it was 1,700 quid, and it came up on Facebook Marketplace, came up on the Thursday, spoke to the chap on the phone on the Friday, collected it and paid for it and brought it back on the Saturday. And I knew it was one for me. It was the colour I wanted, it was the condition, and the price meant that it was worth getting for the price I was paying and the condition of the car. It was the trim I wanted. If I was to have bought one of those new, it's got all the kind of extras that I would have spec'd, so like the Harman Kardon audio stuff and all this sort of extra gear, but it's also got the stuff I wouldn't have had. It's not got the stuff I wouldn't have had, like the sunroof, and wouldn't really have the sort of other little bits and pieces on them sometimes, but it's got all the stuff I would have had. It's anthracite with the full black trim, and I knew, I sort of saw it and I was like, I've got to have it.
Now, I wanted to do a quick run through the dash so you can see what we're working with, and there's a lot to be working with as well. So over here we've got a glove box, which I'm sure for those of you that watched my last Jag video, you'll know that I'm really pleased about. There's gratuitous chrome everywhere, right from the lock pushers to the door handles to little bits of trim on the door. Again, it's that idea of creating a luxury persona within the car, and luxury branding is so hard to achieve, so it's nice when you get in something and you think, yes, it's really hit the spot. Now over here is where kind of for me most of the confusion is, and where I'm not really gelling with it that well, because it feels like there's a lot of buttons here but a lot going on. So over here you've got things like your demist, you've got all your demisting options, you've got all the your front and your rear, you've got all sorts of things. So you've got your temperature control over here, the flow of where your air is, obviously all your aircon, your environmental controls, so to speak. Now this is really interesting because this button here, now I asked what this was, this changes the pitch of the headlights, because in some countries they require your lights to be lower or higher or whatever. And then this, for those of you who like your mod cons, over here you've got your heated seat functionality, you've got your central locking, hazard. I feel like this button should be a lot bigger. And then you've got your tape deck over here, the absolute pinnacle of the 90s, few cassettes in there, Get Spice Girls blaring, All Saints. Love it. Now let's have a look over here. So we'll bring you up here. I want to show you a few bits and pieces. You've got just all your standard stuff on there. So this, let me just pop this on. This, if I can show you, it's a bit dull actually. I just wanted to show you. This basically just changes your trip display on the screen. Again, you've got lots of lights up there, but so can we see these dials clearly? making poor Richard help me do some filming today. Everything's lit really well. It's really nice. Now this for me was a bit weird. Look, this is where your lights are over here. But actually I've come to deal with lights not being on the stalk with the Marina actually, because that's on a switch as well. But again, you've kind of got all your rear and fog and all the rest of it. Now this button's a bit nifty. You press this and it opens the boot. I mean, how cool is that? So if you're getting someone to get out of the car and you're not having to pass them your keys, you can just get them to do that. Now this is a bit of a different one because actually this is so a lot of them have cruise control. This one doesn't. And then down over here you've just got a few extra electrical bits of wizardry to move things like the door mirrors, to move things like the seats. So there's quite a lot. I tell you what, there is quite a lot to go wrong on this actually. There are so many electrics. It's hard to believe that this car has come all the way from 1997. So what's that now? Gosh, feels like forever ago. Especially when you see clubs doing 90s retro nights. It's insane. Anyway, we've had a quick whiz through the dash. I've showed you some of the stuff that we're going to be kind of playing about with today. And next I'm going to show you the J-Gate. Now you guys are always asking me to talk through gearboxes and what's going on with this area of the car, as well as having a look at the dash. So this is your J-Gate and it's unique to Jaguar. Now what I really like about this, and it's a mark of a car that's been looked after and things haven't all broken, is all of these light up as we go through the box. So let me show you. And with this being an automatic, we don't have a clutch per se, we just put our foot on the brake. So many of the Americans that watch the channel will be very familiar with this. The Australians, because I know you guys tend to have a lot more automatics than we do, but let me show you as we go through. So we go into reverse there and you listen to the car as well, so I'll go quiet for a minute. So we'll come back up into park there. Now I'm going to turn the car off there. I just wanted you to hear how quiet that box was, because sometimes you get into these things and they sound a bit clunky and they sound a bit overworn, but that all sounds very smooth, and as you can see it selects beautifully. Now we have got sport and normal over here. Now this gives you higher revs by going into sport like that. Just by selecting sport, your revs are higher, which means that the car's a lot faster and it's just genuinely a little bit more sporty, which is a lovely complement to that beautiful supercharger under the bonnet. Now we've had a look around the whole dash, we've had a look at the gearbox, the gear setup in here. I think it's now high time that we start this amazing car up so you can hear what she sounds like. Now we've had a look round the dash, we've had a look at this section of the car, so let's start the car up. And remember, we've got that straight six under the bonnet and the supercharger. It's going to sound awesome. Now I'm going to crack the door open. It's raining, so we're going to have to ignore the rain, but I want you to hear this car and I'm going to give it a jolly good rev because it sounds awesome. So pop the door open there for you, we pop it on. How amazing does that sound? So we do it again. That is brilliant. I think it's now high time that we take this car up for a drive and see what she's really made of. So this is really, again, it's going back to that Jaguar way of life that we had when we took out Callum's Jag, except this feels a little bit further on. So it's a little bit different to Callum's in that this isn't a rolling restoration. This is a beautiful example. Now, some of the things that I like about it, some of the things I don't. One of the things I like is that the driving experience is unparalleled. The seats are incredibly comfortable. It's, as you can hear as we're driving, we might have that powerful engine with the supercharger under the bonnet, but it is mind, this car hit the roads when, you know, when we were still grappling with the beginnings of dial-up internet. Spice Girls were all the rage, and people were doing the Macarena at the disco first time round, not as a retro. And it feels like it's only just rolled off the forecourt. This car is absolutely exceptional. And when you consider that it's not a particularly low mileage example, so it's not sat in somebody's garage for years or a museum for years, it is a beautiful, beautiful car, and it feels brand new. And I guess that's a real testament to the workmanship of Jaguar and the car itself. And for me, it really ticks all the boxes of a pleasurable driving experience. So I was talking about the speed of the car when we were kind of chatting earlier, and one of the things that I should probably tell you is that although this is known as an XJR, a lot of enthusiasts refer to this as the XJR6, and that's just due to the straight six under the bonnet. Now, as the engine progressed, so did everything inside, and it's one of the big things that I notice as I go from Callum's lovely XJ40 that we took out and we get into this XJR. It's things that I had a little bit of a gripe with when we took the last car out are almost kind of ironed out within this car. So one of my big moans in the last car is that we didn't have a glove box, we had an airbag. Safety first, I know, but a glove box is invaluable, and it's something that I've really actually come to appreciate since going from the Metro to the Marina. The Metro didn't have one, the Marina does, so it's great. And in this, again, you've got your glove box, which is really nice, but as well, we haven't compromised, we've still got the airbag as well. Now, this centre console feels like a massive jump up, and again, it's a little bit more polished than Callum's was, because as we talked about in the video, Callum's was a rolling resto, whereas this seems to have everything kind of going on for it. So I know we had a look at it as we you know, we talked through the dash and stuff, but one of the things that, and maybe this is because I only tend to drive older cars, is that this for me, so I'm just putting the defrost button on there, this for me feels a little bit too complicated in the middle, because I kind of looked down and I'm like, oh my god, it looks like a spaceship. There is so much going on down here. But again, it's like argument that I always make to people, that it feels like a lot of cars in the 90s, late 90s, and especially some of your luxury cars, had all the mod cons and all the things on it that you would need of a car today. I mean, you've got absolutely everything there. You've got all your electric seat adjustments, everything that you could possibly need in a modern hack is within this car, apart from enviable fuel economy. But who needs fuel economy when you've got unrivaled luxury at a price that I feel that a lot of people could afford? Now, after I did the last Jaguar video, a lot of people wrote to me and said, you know, you've really overestimated the running costs, you've really overestimated the servicing costs. And so when I give you things like that, it's things that the owner's shared with me, it's bills, it's receipts that I'm given to have a look at. But I've been told that you can really keep one of these on the road for a lot less than you'd imagine, and especially spending a little bit more in the beginning and going for a well-loved example, an example that's had a lot of work done to it, cars with a lot of receipts, and cars that have generally been given that loving TLC that a car needs if it's to continue on into kind of its veteran years and really enjoy those golden years on the road. So yes, for me, taking out this Jag today, the thing that's really struck me, as well as the size of it, because I tell you what, it was hard inching it out of my road because people park everywhere, is that I just don't understand why more people don't save on these stupid finance deals and try and aim for something like this, because the money you save in your finance payments, you could be putting into an account to one side, and you could be keeping a beautiful car like this on the road. It's a better driving experience, it's more fun, and I think it commands, and I hate to say it, I just think it commands a little bit more respect on the road because of the size of it, because they see that Jaguar on the front, and I think people just really see it and think, wow, what a car. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do was, we've talked about the supercharger under the bonnet. God, keep going, what controls are on. We've talked about the supercharger under the bonnet. Now I'm going to put my foot down so you can just see how it is. So I've asked Richard's permission, so we're going to put the foot down, and you can see it's got some real power behind it. But as well as the power, it's got the braking ability as well. It's also got a mad wiper that I cannot control. It's really, really nippy, so you can really put your foot down, and the handling is absolutely exceptional. It's sticking to the roads, but you can see there power that you could need, and it's that real Jaguar spirit. I'm having to hold it back. It feels like it's trying to run away with me. I mean, I'm doing 30 here, and it's really like, please let me go, I've got so much more to give. And I'm like, look, I don't want to get points on my license. It is a beautiful car, and I have been so lucky to drive it today. So it's time for me to park up now and give Richard the keys back. But my God, what a driving experience this has been. It's been a pleasure to show you around, and it's also our second recording of this video because I lost the original footage. So a massive thank you to the owner, Richard, who is one of my best friends anyway, so it's fine. But a massive thank you to Richard for bringing this to Yorkshire and letting me retake this out again, retest it, because it's not just a pleasure to show you guys, it's a pleasure to drive as well. And if you get the chance to buy one of these, I would say don't worry about the servicing costs, just think about the luxury, think about the absolutely unrivaled, incredible driving experience. And for the low purchase prices in these cars, they're sitting well under £5,000 for a decent example. I feel like it's an affordable dream for not just kind of your upper echelons, but for your average man too. So it's time for me to say goodbye to you guys. We've got lots coming up on the channel over the next few weeks, including what's going to happen for 2020 for Idriveaclassic, various show reports, and also just a bit of an update on my fleet as well. But until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and leaves me with my standard message to say to you, take care and drive safely.